As the premier storyteller of the history, arts, and culture of Martha's Vineyard, the Martha's Vineyard Museum created the MV Medal in 2009. The medal is awarded to leaders in the community to recognize their outstanding commitment to preserving the history, arts, culture, and culture of Martha's Vineyard. Recipients demonstrate leadership on the island in at least one of the following areas: historic preservation, fine and performing arts, literature, community activism, and education. The process for choosing the MV Medal recipients begins with a call to the community. So we invite the community to nominate folks from around the island, and then our staff takes those nominations, and we have one or sometimes two staff meetings where we sort of talk through all the medal recipients and we prioritize them, and then we have the staff vote on the first round of medal recipients. Then that goes to our executive committee of the board to take a look at who the top nominees are. Each year it's really interesting to see what is on the community's mind and how they are recognizing what's happening in the community. And I think this year's recipients are an excellent and diverse sort of breadth of what's happening on the island right now. So I'd like to begin by inviting Annie Whiting up to present the MV Medal to Gus Ben David.
Did a gainer off her deck.
Yeah, someone asked me earlier if you were going to bring your eagle with you.
You would have brought her.
Well, you know, I feel a little naked up here because I have a security blanket. Usually I have an eagle over here or an owl over there. So
Yeah, I got you.
what you get?
Well, so as I said, I'm Annie Whiting. I've known this man for a long time, and this should be called a lot of history, because the man who's receiving this honor is his favorite expression, correct? One of them. One of them. So, Gus Ben David, or Augustus Donald Ben David II, or better yet, Gussie or Ben Ball. He's an island icon. I've been privileged to know him for 53 years, and to this day, he's the man I call with a question about anything to do with nature and wildlife. He always answers like a big brother should. Correct? His time at Felix Neck started in 1969. 35 years later, he retired to run his world of reptiles and bird park full time. Now he sits on his back deck, or falls off of it occasionally. I said, as soon as I found out about this, I said, I got some good material for this. Now he sits on his back deck or in his cabin, reflecting on his legacy, and watches his flock of snow geese fly in and out, as they do all the time. And out of the property that he so carefully maintains, and that is his sanctuary now. He went from Felix Neck Wildlife Sanctuary and he created a beautiful sanctuary of his own property, ponds and birds, and it's just, you know, hanging out in his cabin with Gus is an event, let's put it that way, to stay off the deck. Right. He also has, he's made sure that the ospreys have a safe place to nest, and the barn owls and other birds on this island. He can tread the delicate balance of nature and human interaction with ease, and that is a tremendously gift that this man has, a tremendous gift. Shemelia Golden Eagle of over 40 years, is still his partner in falconry. She's the oldest captive eagle on the continent, maybe the world.
Possible.
It's possible. He has raised many birds and reptiles and amphibians, and he's learned everything through reading and experience. He's the naturalist's naturalist. There's no one better on this island to teach anybody about nature on this island and in this environment and in this country, in this world. I've traveled the world with this man, and he's an amazing educator. And we talked about education. That's his thing. He's also a world-class educator, does not need a certificate or a master's degree to teach. Every young person raised on this island has experienced his wisdom and his love. I learn something from him every time I spend time with him, which is often. He's my big brother. He's devoted to Debbie, and bless you, Debbie, back there. Good luck. His kids and the grandchildren they share. He loves this island and the people who take care of it. But what is most important to him, and to all of us, is that we practice kindness in everything that we do. There's no malice in nature, he often says. And that is a worthy goal for all of us. No malice, and be kind. Thank you. right, love you.
Did you want a word or two or anything?
Oh, I'd love a word or two.
Okay.
He doesn't stand, Dan, you gotta be on Zoom, so you need to.
Oh, I'm loud, I'm
No,
loud.
no, you have to be on camera.
Doggone technology, but it's getting to me a little bit, huh?
Some of our folks
All
are
right,
really
right here?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to be too loud now.
No, that's video.
Oh, my
I did
goodness.
30 shows with him on MVTV.
I'm gonna be on TV? Oh,
You
my
are.
goodness.
All right.
I'll behave, Al, I'll behave.
No, you won't.
Anyway, maybe you'll recognize the voice I'm about to plagiarize. A pretty popular guy in World War II. You will never be in the presence of another man or woman that loves this island and his people and his history than I. Thank you.
Hard act to follow, but I'm going to invite Connie Ellis up to the podium. And we have Kib and Tess Bramhall zooming in from their living room. So I'm going to pull them up. So if you want to come up here, Connie, I will pull Kib and Tess onto the screen. All right.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I got the instructions wrong. I thought I was going to introduce Kib and Tess, and that Heather or Kathy were going to give them the award, but I will happily give you the award. It won't be easy since you're not here, but we'll do our best. I'm Connie Ellis. I am a summer resident of Chilmark. It's a very great pleasure to be here at the museum to admire how it keeps us in touch with our island history and celebrates the island's culture in all its diversity. Kib and Tess Bramhall have been a part of my life for 56 years, and in the case of Kib, for over 70 years. He and I were teenagers summering on the Vineyard with parents who fortunately, and in the parenting style of the time, were anything but helicopter parents. We were largely free to invent our days as long as we showed up for dinner on time. I am grateful beyond measure for the close friendship I've had for many decades with the Bramhalls. It only gets better, and we're kind of there. For 60 decades, Kib and Tess have made a commitment to devote their lives to this island, to live here permanently, to focus their efforts on protection, preservation, and recording of the island's natural beauty. They have stayed faithful to that purpose. Let's take a look at each of them, and then we'll return to their partnership. Kib has told me that at age 12, he was brought to the Vineyard one day after the end of World War II in 1945 by his mother, and he knew immediately that he would make the island his home. When that became the case decades later, when he left his job in Boston to paint full-time on Martha's Vineyard, he affirmed his decision as an artist to make the island, its landscapes, seascapes, and coasts, his primary subject matter. In producing some 1,000 works of art in his career, which, by the way, continues to this day, he became, inadvertently at first, though, the visual historian of our island, its terrain, waters, farms, buildings. His body of work is a record of what we had, what we still have, but also what has changed, what has been lost by erosion or human intervention and development. In his role as senior master artist here, Kib is known for the role he plays in encouraging a growing colony of younger emerging artists on the Vineyard. Kib's paintings are celebrated nationally, but his reputation internationally has skyrocketed since he began at the onset of COVID, publishing a painting every week on Facebook. I'm sure everyone has seen these. Thousands worldwide respond to discovering a beautiful painting amid the depressing news of our daily internet diet. An iconic fisherman and world record holder, flycaster holding, inducted into the MV Martha's Vineyard Derby Hall of Fame, Kib has been called the Dean of Martha's Vineyard fly fishing community. He has been saltwater fishing since introduced to it at the age of 7 by his father and grandfather on the New Jersey coast, and he has continued fishing for 80-plus years. As such, he has, and I quote from the introduction to in his wonderful 2011 book, Bright Waters, Shining Tides, and now I quote, been witness to the huge changes that have adversely affected our oceans and species of fish: pollution, overfishing, population growth, technology, end of quote. Kib's efforts to counter destruction and preserve the natural integrity of species, striped bass in particular, came ashore in the mid-60s, 1960s that is, when he joined his mentor, the legendary Henry Beadle Huff, in seeking funding for the purchase of Cedar Tree Neck and Ox Pond Meadow. He served on the board of the Sheriff's Meadow Foundation, which was another groundbreaking Henry Huff project designed to protect the land and open access to the public. In 1968, he canvassed the fishing community for funds to bolster the trustees of reservations' proposed purchase of wasky, as he says, in order to keep it forever wild. When that was accomplished, he continued with the trustees for 34 years on their committees and board, helping them to acquire and maintain their Chappaquiddick and Long Point properties. With these mid-20th century initiatives, precedent was established for future preservation organizations and projects on Martha's Vineyard. The importance of this kickstart cannot be exaggerated. Over the years, Kib has continued to advocate, be it more behind the scenes and to war of perils as they arise. He bears the titles of Master Artist and Fisherman. To me, he also deserves the title of Eminence Grise for his ongoing efforts to preserve our fragile ecosystem, but remain quietly doing so. Before Tess moved to the island full-time, she continued her work in art history as docent at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston until 1996. From then on, she has pursued her passion for preservation of lands on Martha's Vineyard. Her work has had a more public face, taken a more proactive approach in recent years, despite her personal preference to keep a low profile. Only last year, Tess founded the Land Protection Fund for Martha's Vineyard, which exists to give a financial boost to nonprofit organizations when opportunities to purchase and protect land arise and quick action is required to close a deal. This year alone, the Land Protection Fund was able to help secure, for purchase by the Land Bank, land comprising the headwaters of the Millbrook and Tisbury Great Pond. That's quite something. This effective approach to providing leverage for a land purchase opportunity will not be lost on any fundraiser in this audience. Another role Tess plays in her unassuming way is the leadership of the Conservation Partnership. In 1997, Tess, Edo Potter, Eleanor Graves, and 2 others founded the partnership to help sort out the goals of each conservation group, avoid overlapping responsibilities, and become more transparent in communications with the public. A first step was to locate all the groups in one house. This did not last. But the establishment of communications did. Tess herself served as board president of the Vineyard Conservation Society, but returned recently to act as chief referee of the partnership's monthly meetings, where information is shared and, whenever possible, efforts are coordinated. In 2020, Tess published a beautiful volume entitled In Praise of Protected Lands and Special Places on Martha's Vineyard. It's a long title, but I would have added a subtitle which would say, "And you lucky sucker, you have the right to visit all 21 of these breathtaking sites." This book is copiously illustrated with paintings by Kib. The book is a celebration of what has been accomplished over the past half-century in preservation and in education, not only of school children, but all of us. Some of you may not know that Tess has written 3 books. Her first, A History of the First 100 Years of Seven Gates Farm, came out in 1988. In 2006, she wrote and illustrated A Young Child's Guide to Nature entitled Ty Loves Flowers. It is an early example of environmental message written for children, and it can be purchased while supplies last at Seven Sisters in Vineyard Haven, the elegant boutique just opened by Kib and Tess's granddaughter, Ty Sinnette. Kib and Tess, as a team, understood early on that the island stood in peril of losing what made and makes it the place of our longing. Their groundbreaking work over the past 6 decades is a legacy we celebrate today. And we have a further legacy, and that is the presence of their 3 children with their families on this island. 4 adults and now 2 grandchildren have added their talents to the island's economy and professions. And now, with the recent birth of a great-grandchild, the Bramhall effect has thankfully no end in sight. Thank you.
Nina's going to come up to accept it.
Nina will test. There you are, and this is for Kim.
Kib and Tess, anything you want to add?
I would like to add something, and that is to say that I think that your museum in its current location and with the current staff that it has is doing the very best that can be done to include everybody on the island together. And all during the period of COVID, we were not together, but you held us together by your wonderful presence on Instagram and Facebook, and we, at least myself, appreciate it very much. And the only other thing I would say, being me, is that if it was not for the land that is Martha's Vineyard, your museum would not exist. And so we must think of protecting that land and all that it offers all of us. Thank you.
Next, I am going to invite Molly Purves up to the podium to introduce Juli Vanderhoop.
First of all, I just want to say thank you, Juli, for asking me to do this. This is such an honor. When I was in my early 20s, a friend told me that he had an aunt who was a nun. And she became a nun like relatively young, like about my age. I was like 23, 24. And I really had a hard time wrapping my mind around this. Like, why would you commit to a life of what seemed like no fun at all? And devotion to like one thing in your 20s. And I asked him, I was like, what do you mean she's a nun and why? And he shrugged and said very matter-of-factly, she felt a calling. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Because that just didn't seem like enough of a response. And he said she felt called by God. And I really had no response to that. And I really didn't understand it, but he just kept saying that, like she felt called. She felt called. And so I didn't understand it, but I knew that a calling was serious if it could make you do something like that. And I look at Juli, and I think that she has been called in a very similar way. I mean, she's not a nun. I'm not saying that. But she was called to return to Aquinnah after her divorce to serve her community. And I don't know who or what called her, the island, because we know it does that, right? Like the island calls you, it will send you away sometimes too. Her family, which is vast. I mean, good luck trying to learn the Vanderhoop family tree. I can take you through the basics, but there's a lot I don't know. The great spirit, all of the above, but she answered and she came, and she continues to answer the call. And, you know, Julie never strikes me as a person, she's never like, I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, she's very clear what her purpose is. And she seems to have this internal voice that guides her through the day. And, you know, things come up and she handles them. And, but she has this real devotion to the moment and the task at hand that's really beautiful to watch. And Julie does a lot. She does a lot. I mean, and people sort of know her in these ways as like, you know, the woman who built the oven in her driveway, or, you know, the mother of Ella and Emerson, or a Vanderhoop, you know, or she was a pilot, a beekeeper, a farmer. She is all of those things. But she really does have this, like she just takes care of the task at hand. There's also a really public part to Julie. Like she has this really magnetic personality. And so whenever I tell people I live in Aquinnah, they're like, do you know Julie? And I say I do. And they sometimes ask in such a way that they feel like, I can tell that they feel like they know her intimately. Like they really like have a piece of her. And I know that there's a cost to that for Julie sometimes, that like, that she really puts herself out there as a member of her community, and that's really difficult for her sometimes, and that she has to be private. And the way I've seen her deal with that is that she has such a devotion to her family. And I have to say that if Julie had done nothing else but raise Ella and Emerson, her two children, I really think that she would have given her community enough, because you could not find two better humans than Ella and Emerson. They're curious, compassionate, smart, and disciplined and creative, and Julie just gave them all the room that she could to help them grow. And there is also one person who Julie will drop everything for, and that's her mother, Anne. And she really, really is devoted to Anne. And it's a gift to see them together, if you ever get the chance to. And you really get to see the lineage of the tribe and of the Vanderhoops and what I think Julie has been called to do. You can see that in her work with her mom, Anne had some work done on her house. Was it over the winter? Mm-hmm. And Anne came to stay with Julie, and although I did get some phone calls of like, she's driving me a little crazy, Julie took care of her in the really loveliest, sweetest way, and you know, cooked food for her, made sure she had everything she needed, and was really well taken care of. And so it's a gift to see that, and it's a real gift to have a friend who has a calling and who has the courage to answer it. You know, Julie does a lot in the community and for the community. She serves on a lot of committees, a lot. She's a select person. And among other things, she's, you know, Parks and Rec and Planning Board and all this stuff, and also as a member of the tribe. And she will speak her mind, even if that is an unpopular opinion that she has. She will speak her mind. And so she's an incredible example of courage as well within your community, you know, speaking up in your community and pointing out when you disagree with other people, because that can be very uncomfortable, especially in such a small town. So I just want to say thank you, Julie, for returning home and strengthening our community, your community. You are such a pillar of it, and thank you for answering the call every day.
Thank you. Oh, I just have to say one or two things. First of all, I definitely have to say thank you to the board and many people who nominated me. It's an honor, especially an honor to be up here with some of these honorees. They've served this island very well. And if we listen to that call, then we can help the island a little bit each day. And I grew up here, luckily, as a daughter of my mother, who taught me to speak my mind. She says it like it needs to be, whenever. But through that, I learned something, and that was that in order to protect this beautiful island that some of us know and respect, that my people have been here since before written history, and that I was very tired of hearing, well, where are they? Where are the Wampanoag people? And actually, we're all over, but not a lot of us speak up. But it was my time to teach my family and to teach them to hold on to their place here, as so many of us have had to move and lose our connection with this sacred ground. I love this museum because it tells the history of us all and how we're here, hopefully to honor what some of us know, how majestic this land under our feet is, and how much energy it can bring us each day. And that doesn't change whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a rainy day, whether it's a foggy week. It's always with us, and it provides us something very special that we know and carry. And it's carried me forth, and I really do feel that my ancestors are with me, and my children have always been with me. When I was faced with leaving this island with the possibility that I could no longer afford here, it was my children that reminded me, where else will we go? And then who will we be? I have to face this challenge. I have to hold this place to what I know about history. And we're in a fight for our generations of people. And I want to thank you for providing the history. Because at some point, we all know how important our history is. When we're young, we might forget about it or not understand it well enough to love it. But we're all making it. And this island has a possibility to bring our history forward in a better way than the rest of the world, as the people that are with me honored today know. So thank you so much.